Fear and panic spread in Tehran metro station as Iranian security forces have opened fire at people.
Reports claim Iranian police marched through the train and beat women who were not wearing obligatory head covers. More details on this later in the news. Good evening. I'm CJ Hero.
And I am Nina Richie Alagao Flores. This is Matanang Agila International. And now for the headlines.
President Ferdinand Marcos Jr. secures new investment for the Philippines. Philippine Coast Guard to welcome U.S. Vice President Kamala Harris. Chinese President Xi Jinping confronts Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau at the G20 summit. U.S. President Joe Biden congratulates Republicans for winning control of the House. And North Korea fires another missile to warn America and its allies.
President Ferdinand Marcos Jr. has secured another investment for the Philippines during his attendance in Bangkok, Thailand for the APEC Summit 2022. Marcos Jr. has persuaded Thai conglomerate CP Group to make additional ventures in the country, particularly in the aquaculture, rice and swine production. The CG Group is the biggest private company in Thailand and has a $2 billion investment in the Philippines. Marcos Jr. also participated in the open forum discussion of the APEC CEO Summit 2022. This year's topic centers on the global economy and the future of Asia-Pacific economic cooperation. In the said forum, the chief executive reiterated that private and public partnerships, or PPP, must be strengthened to achieve the economic transformation. The president is also pleased to join World Economic Forum founder and chairman Klaus Schwab and PwC Global Chair Robert Moritz. Earlier, Marcos Jr. reported that during the month of August, the government listed 74 private and public partnership projects. These ventures cost a total of 2.25 trillion pesos.
These partnerships with the private sector are a centerpiece of the transformation of the Philippine economy. APEC's value and relevance are its ability to work with business. There is no other organization or forum that actively seeks the concerns of business the way APEC does. This tight engagement is what makes APEC unique, functional, and important. And therefore, it is an engagement that must not only be preserved, but it must be strengthened.
To be able to lower the cost of rice, a group of farmers suggested that the government should subsidize production costs of rice grains. According to Kilusang Magbubukid ng Pilipinas, although they support the target of President Ferdinand Marcos Jr. to lower the amount of rice per kilo to 20 pesos, the group said it can only be achieved if the government will help the farmers with their expenses. The group also asked to broaden the scope of rice field irrigation, to have an increase in the production of rice grains during the dry season, and to build drying facilities to avoid huge harvest loss during the rainy season. KMP added that the government cannot lower the price of rice if they will only rely on Kadiwa sites.
Healthcare workers can expect to receive their unpaid health emergency allowance, or HEA, before December 25. According to the Department of Health Officer in charge, Undersecretary Maria Rosario Vergeire, allowance distribution may possibly be given to healthcare workers. Vergeire said the DOH sent a letter to the Department of Budget and Management, or DBM, to have an additional 27 billion pesos for the health emergency allowance, which the DBM has not yet provided. Moreover, the Undersecretary said the DOH coordinated with DBM to release the funds. Until this October, almost 11.5 billion billion pesos has been received by DOH for the allowance of more than 1.6 million healthcare workers from January to June.
An infectious disease expert says one of the signs of the pandemic and now entering an endemic stage is a better response to it. Nadine Aguilar for the details.
An infectious disease expert clarified when will the pandemic can be considered on the endemic stage. This is due to the Department of Health announcement that there is still a high chance of a resurgence of COVID-19 cases. According to Dr. Edsel Salvania, the slow or gradual phase to the end of the pandemic is based on the response of the health emergency authorities regarding COVID-19.
Meron tayong a level of immunity in the population na hindi na ma-overwhelm yung ating healthcare system. There's no distinct point in time na sasabihin mo na okay, from epidemic or from pandemic naging endemic. Pero yung indications ng endemicity, nakikita na po talaga natin.
Dr. Salvania clarified that there is a huge chance of the resurgence of the cases. This is due to low healthcare utilization in the country due to COVID-19.
Hindi po to parang on and off switch na pandemic siya tapos biglang naging endemic. This is a gradual drawdown. Nakikita naman natin yun. Stable nga yung healthcare utilization.
To improve the situation, Dr. Salvania encouraged the public to continuously wear face masks even though wearing of face mask is only voluntary in both indoor and outdoor setup.
Isipin natin yung ating mga bagyo, signal, or even just the weather, di ba? Pag umuulan, gagamit ka pa rin naman ng payong.
Correct.
In that sense, pag mataas yung level ng infection, di ba, nagkakaroon tayo minsan ng spikes in dengue. So, kailangan mas pag-ingat natin yung ating mga anak para hindi sila makagat ng lamok. Ganun rin, pag nakikita natin na yung level of cases is high or merong vulnerable population, meron tayong tools para i-decrease yung risk. And these tools are available to all of us, and we should already begin to determine our risk so that we can use the tools at least to keep us safe as much as possible.
First, the World Health Organization or WHO did not remove at their meeting last October the public health emergency of international concern status of COVID-19. This is even a decrease in the number of cases seen in different parts of the world. The WHO is set to conduct a meeting in January 2023. Nadine Aguilar, reporting for Mata ng Agila International. Trusted, connected, on point.
The Philippine Coast Guard will welcome U.S. Vice President Kamala Harris aboard BRP Teresa Magbanwa during her visit to Puerto Princesa, Palawan on November 22. The 97-meter Kunigami-class multi-role response patrol ship is the current Coast Guard's flagship vessel. According to Commodore Armando Balilo, the Philippine government purchased the BRP Teresa Magbanwa last May through the Development Assistance Loan. Balilo also said that aside from the Coast Guard officers, officials from the Armed Forces of the Philippines, Philippine National Police, Department of Transportation, and local government units will board BRP Teresa Magbanwa to listen to Kamala's address.
Around 20 protesters gather in downtown Bangkok to demand the resignation of Prime Minister Prayut Chan-o-cha. They also demand the government abolish Thailand's lèse-majesté law. Joseph Sirikitul, one of the protesters, claims Chan-o-cha has a history of tyranny. He also alleges that the Prime Minister does not represent the people of Thailand. Tantawan Tuatulanon, another protester, laments that APEC is supposed to promote trade, yet he asserts that Thai farmers have barely enough food to eat. The protest happens as Thailand begins its first day of hosting world leaders at the APEC summit.
เขาบอกว่าเอเปกเนี่ยส่งเสริมการค้าแต่ชาวนาที่มาเรียกร้องวันนี้เขายังแทบไม่มีกินเลยค่ะแล้วสรุปคุณส่งเสริมการค้าของใครคุณส่งเสริมการค้าของนายทุนหรือคุณส่งเสริมชาวนาของการค้าของชาวนาหรือประชาชนอย่างพวกเรากันแน่สรุปแล้วผลประโยชน์ครั้งนี้ใครเป็นคนได้
Coming up, Chinese President Xi Jinping confronts Canadian Prime Minister Trudeau at the G20 summit. U.S. President Joe Biden congratulates Republicans on winning House majority. And in Los Angeles, a car hits 5 aspiring police cadets, leaving them in critical condition. Mata ng Agila International will be right back.
Pati na rin ang moments. Andito na si Neri. Si Neri Miranda. And welcome po sa aming resto. Ang tuyo na mano-manong pinalatan ni Neri. Ngayon, umabot na hanggang sa ibang bansa. May distributors na resellers.
Akala kasi ng iba, lahat ng tinry kong negosyo nag-boom. Hindi.
Paano mo ba describe yung iyong buhay ngayon with him and the kids?
Home. Naiiyak ako.
One word, oo.
Ngayong linggo na yan, dito lang sa Moments, 4 to 5 p.m. sa Net25.
Panalo tayo pag together, walang talo pag together, let's get together sa Net25.
Dito na!
Ako nag-invento ng ingredients niya.
Talaga po?
Isa ko sa pinakamagaling na kulinary. Nag-aral ako sa Espanya.
Di mo ako sasamahan, sabihin mo na lang kung sino yung secret admirer ko.
Hoy!
Sorry, nakatulog na pala ako while waiting.
Eh, sabi mo naman kasi, di ba, you're willing to wait.
The news continues here on Mata ng Agila International. A rare and unfriendly public encounter between two leaders was filmed on camera. China's leader Xi Jinping was captured on video by Canadian broadcasters on the sidelines of the G20 summit in Indonesia as he was lecturing Canadian leader Prime Minister Justin Trudeau over what he says are leaked discussions. Xi, speaking in Mandarin with a smile and accompanied by a translator, expressed his disappointment of Trudeau for allegedly leaking everything they have discussed to the papers and that was not appropriate. As Trudeau nods, Xi's translator goes on to say, and this was his exact words, and that was not how the conversation was conducted. Trudeau cuts off the translator by saying that in Canada, they believe in a free and open and frank dialogue. After a few more verbal clashes, the Chinese leader shakes the Canadian Prime Minister's hand before walking away.
In a tweet, U.S. President Joe Biden congratulates Republicans for winning control of the House. According to Biden, last week's elections demonstrated the strength and resilience of American democracy. Biden added in a statement that in America, the will of the people prevails. He congratulates Leader McCarthy on his House majority and says he is ready to work together for American families. Republicans on Wednesday took control of the U.S. House of Representatives from Democrats, narrowly securing a legislative base to oppose President Joe Biden's agenda for the final 2 years of his term. This leaves a split power in Congress. The slim Republican majority in the lower house of the U.S. legislature was far smaller than the party had been banking on. And Republicans also failed to take control of the Senate in a historically weak performance in the November 8 midterm elections.
Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky insists that the missile that hit Poland and killed 2 people came from Russia. In televised remarks, Zelensky's comments contradict those of Poland and NATO, who say the explosion was likely caused by a Ukrainian air defense missile launched to intercept a Russian barrage. Zelensky says Kyiv has not seen proof that the missile was Ukrainian, adding it is imperative that Ukraine become part of an investigation. 2 people died Tuesday when a missile hit a village in Poland near the Ukrainian border. The missile struck during a mass Russian bombardment aimed at civilian infrastructure inside Ukraine.
The top U.S. general says Russia's attacks on Ukrainian infrastructure constitute a terror campaign and the targeting of civilians is a war crime. Mark Milley, chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, also says it's unlikely Ukraine will be rid of Russia entirely.
Secretary of Defense Lloyd Austin III. The probability of a Ukrainian military victory, defined as kicking the Russians out of all of Ukraine, to include what they define or what they claim as Crimea, the probability of that happening anytime soon is not high, militarily. We have today.
Milley adds Russia has lost strategically, operationally, and tactically.
Volodymyr Zelensky has stated that Kyiv is now ready to negotiate and that he has been informed of Moscow's readiness as well. It was previously reported that Ukraine's president said that was not an option. Again, he also blamed Russia for the missile that hit Poland. The White House, on the other hand, said it had seen no evidence that it wasn't a Ukrainian air defense rocket. Washington stated that regardless of the findings of any investigation, Russia was still to blame for the strike that killed 2 people in a border village in Poland.
Victoria Nuland, Undersecretary of State for Political Affairs of the United States, and Juan Carlos Holguin, Ecuadorian Minister of Foreign Affairs, hold a press conference in Quito after the 2 countries signed an Open Skies agreement. According to Nuland, the Open Skies agreement liberates the airline trade both for tourists and the people. Moreover, the agreement provides benefits to the cargo with lots of bureaucratic hurdles which hinder them to expand. Nuland stressed that they stand for citizen security in the face of cross-national or criminal networks that do not know about borders on land, on the sea, or in the air.
The World Economic Forum says Africa needs to pay $2.8 trillion to meet its obligations under the Paris Agreement. An analysis by the Climate Policy Initiative projects that Africa needs about $250 billion to meet the climate goals by 2030. RT's Karabo Letlatla explains how this could impact the South Africa's economy.
An $8.5 billion pledge made at last year's COP26 climate change conference in Glasgow is finally coming to life. Rich nations of the West, who through their own industrial development created the climate crisis, are now giving out loans to South Africa to get it off of coal. It's called the Just Energy Transition Plan. It's a deal between South Africa and 5 other governments: the United States, the United Kingdom, the European Union, Germany, and France. But what's in it for South Africa?
We are using the transition to put ourselves in debt in circumstances where we are not even using the transition to create an industrial base in South Africa of renewables. We're just going to depend, one, on Western money. The equipment is going to come from China, and we're just going to be the recipients of the debt and the energy. So I'm still skeptical about the strategy in terms of the benefit, the long-term benefit for South Africa.
97% of the $8.5 billion will be loaned, while 3% will be grants. France and Germany have already kicked off the process by depositing 300 million euros each to the South African Treasury. This will be a 20-year loan, 5 years included of grace period, and they will be at an interest of 3.6% for France and 3% for Germany. But South Africa says more grants and less loans would work better.
While South Africa welcomes low interest or concession loans, a substantial portion of this funding needs to be in the form of grants. The move towards lower carbon emissions is imperative as the toll will begin to weigh heavily on South Africa's economy.
Look, the risk of interest rates rising is a very real one. The issue of South Africa having taken the loans in foreign currency is only going to exacerbate the problem because the currency, the South African rand, will continue to weaken against all major currencies.
But Europe is essentially a fossil fuel addict and cannot currently survive without them. When Russia reduced its natural gas supply to Europe, leaders of Italy, France, and especially Germany came rushing to Africa, seeking the same fossil fuels they used to buy from Russia.
Europe wants to turn Africa into its gas station. We don't have to follow the footsteps of the rich world that actually caused climate change in the first place.
And they are also sourcing those fuels. Coal from South Africa and gas from the rest of the continent. That's a hypocrisy that I think we need to be looking at and saying, what does it mean in terms of these loans and this transition?
Western nations are apparently taking a huge gamble on South Africa being a successful model for how developing countries can transition from high to low carbon, while South Africa is itself taking a huge gamble on the Western green agenda. And some commentators say it is being done at the peril of risking energy independence and sovereignty. Karabole Tata for RT in Johannesburg.
North Korea fired a short-range ballistic missile this Thursday, according to Seoul's military, which was a possible warning of a harder military response to the United States and its allies. In the report of South Korea's Joint Chiefs of Staff, a short-range ballistic missile was identified in the Wonsan area in Gangwon province. This week, U.S. President Joe Biden discussed North Korea's activities with his Chinese counterpart, Xi Jinping, at the G20 summit. North Korean Minister of Foreign Affairs Choe Son-hui criticized the said conversations.
Iran has issued a series of death sentences as women-led protests over Mahsa Amini's death enters the third month. 3 people were sentenced to death on a charge called enmity against God in connection with the anti-government demonstrations. Street violence raged across the country overnight as protests intensified. Amini was a 22-year-old Iranian woman of Kurdish origin. She died in the custody of the morality police, who had arrested her in September for an alleged breach of Iran's strict dress code. Since the protests began, more than 240 people have been killed, including at least 11 since Tuesday. More than 15,000 people have been arrested for taking part in the demonstrations. Despite the use of lethal force by authorities, the protests show no sign of ending.
In related news, Iranian police have opened fire at Tehran metro station and allegedly beat women passengers on the train who were not wearing head covers. Videos were spreading on social media in which passengers panicked and ran to get out through the exits. This action by the police is still part of their control protocols on large public protests to condemn the death of 22-year-old Mahsa Amini in police custody in September for alleged dress code violations of women in Iran. According to the NGO Iran Human Rights, more than 300 have died since the protests started, while 15,000 have been arrested.
A car slammed into a large group of aspiring police officers jogging in Los Angeles on Wednesday, injuring 25, with 5 of them now in critical condition, according to officials. It did not appear to slow down, even as it headed the wrong way and crashed into dozens of recruits who were out for a morning run. Now, Los Angeles County Sheriff Alex Villanueva said at a press conference that it looked like it was an aviation wreck. He continued that there were other dead dispersed over the area in various levels of injury, which was quite traumatic for everyone involved. The 25 injured, according to Villanueva, had some loss of limb, and one badly injured patient was being kept alive by a ventilator. More than a dozen ambulances were present. Paramedics were sorting the injured, and an SUV with a dark front end was on the pavement. According to Fire Captain Sheila Kelleher, the car was traveling the wrong way when the event occurred.
Coming right up, Oscar winner Kevin Spacey faces additional sexual charges in London. Ferry carrying almost 300 people in Bali catches fire. And global warming boosts olive production in Bosnia. More of these stories from around the globe when Mata ng Agila International returns.
Full-on travel is back, and there are countless destinations, tour packages, and hotel and resort stays to choose from. Ito na nga talaga ang pagkakataon sa mga mahilig o may planong maglakwatsa. The 6th World Travel Expo by AdAsia Events was held with a big bang with a wide variety of travel deals.
They feel the demand from the visitors itself. They wanted to travel again. There's the revenge travel. We've been locked down for 2 years. Now we're getting back. Ang market ni World Travel Expo, since we started, mga young people. So sila yung very aggressive in traveling.
Open for business with Cesar Vallejos. Sunday, 9 p.m.
Yung talento mo wala pa sa kalahati. Magpunas ka muna ng bibig dahil may gatas ka pa sa labi.
Natawag na tamad. Gusto ko na umalis eh.
Oh, ba't di ka pa umalis?
Tamad ako eh.
Grabe yung problema ko. Sobrang bilis kumasay late.
Ano namang problema doon?
Kakasabi ko lang, di ba?
Sa programang ito, lahat kayo nakangiti. Kaya welcome to...
The British Crown Prosecution Service revealed on Wednesday that Kevin Spacey, a two-time Oscar winner, has been charged for 7 further sexual offenses. According to a statement from the service, all of the accusations are connected to instances involving one guy that reportedly took place between 2001 and 2004. Spacey, a U.S. citizen, has worked as a stage actor in United Kingdom for a large portion of his career. From 2004 to 2015, he directed at London's Old Vic Theatre. The latest allegations against the House of Cards star center on 3 cases of indecent assault, 3 of sexual assault, and 1 case of coercing someone into sexual activity without their consent.
Turkish Islamic televangelist and cult leader Adnan Oktar was sentenced to 8,658 years in prison for sexual abuse and attempted political and military espionage. 66-year-old Oktar was sentenced this Wednesday by an Istanbul court. The famous televangelist and author of the book Atlas of Creation was also charged for abusing minors. Oktar is known for his talk show on his own Turkish channel, the A9 TV, and which has his female companions dance while he discusses religious issues. Oktar has also been related to many cases over 2 decades and was also jailed last year.
The U.S. court sentenced a Chinese intelligence official to 20 years in jail on Wednesday for stealing technology from U.S. and French aerospace companies, according to the Justice Department. A 5-year plot to steal business secrets from GE Aviation, one of the top producers of aviation engines in the world, and Safran Group from France, which collaborated with GE on engine development, was alleged to have involved Xu Yanjun. Xu was one of 11 Chinese nationals named in indictments filed in federal court in Cincinnati, Ohio on October 2018, where GE Aviation is located. 2 intelligence officers were also included. The Chinese Ministry of State Security Intelligence officer was apprehended in Belgium in April 2018 after being lured into a counterintelligence operation. He had planned to meet a GE employee secretly on the trip. He was extradited to the United States, where he was found guilty of attempted economic espionage, attempted trade secret theft, and 2 related conspiracy charges in a jury trial on November 5, 2021.
Several videos are circulating online alleging Guangzhou residents in China crashing through lockdown barriers and toppling police cars in defiance of the zero COVID-19 curb orders. Footage also show large crowds cheering and surging the streets to revolt against strictly enforced local orders. News sources say that authorities try not to use force and not violate human rights. Yet there were reports around 15 people were reported missing after a protest. Local reports say the lives of people in Guangzhou have become miserable due to COVID lockdowns. Residents cry out for food, medical care, and money as the curbs imposed by the authorities have affected businesses and people's livelihoods. The city, which is a major financial hub in the Asia-Pacific, recorded over 5,100 new infections. Most of the patients were asymptomatic. Due to strict COVID policies across China, analysts say the country's economy is only deteriorating.
Help is on the way to contain an outbreak of Ebola in the East African country of Uganda. 3 experimental vaccines will be shipped to Uganda next week for clinical trials. World Health Organization spokesman Michael Ryan says the country has been struggling to control the outbreak caused by the Sudan strain of the virus, for which there is currently no vaccine.
The Sudan strain is a particular challenge, and to have products, ready to go on the ground is a huge victory again for that collaboration from local to global that allows us to bring these products to bear.
In the current outbreak, there are 141 confirmed cases, including 55 deaths.
A passenger ferry carrying 271 people caught fire off Indonesia's resort island of Bali. News sources said that the Mutiara Timur 1 was carrying 236 passengers and 35 ship personnel when it suddenly caught fire about a mile from the Karangasem beach. Videos posted to social media from those on the scene showed the fire emerging from the rear of the ferry. In another video, passengers were gathered at the front of the ship awaiting rescue. Bali's Search and Rescue Agency head, Gede Darmada, said several Navy sailors and local fishermen rescued the passengers. Darmada added that there were no casualties. He also said that the cause of the fire is still under investigation.
People wait outside a jail in Yangon as Myanmar's ruling military junta says it will release almost 6,000 prisoners, including a former British ambassador, a Japanese journalist, and an Australian advisor to Aung San Suu Kyi's ousted government. With the military coup last year and a bloody crackdown on dissent, Myanmar has been in disturbance that made thousands jailed. During the crackdown, dozens of foreign nationals have also been caught up. Meanwhile, according to a senior officer, former British envoy Vicky Baumann, Australian economics advisor Sean Turnell, and Japanese journalist Toru Kubota will be released to mark National Day. The junta announced a total of 5,774 prisoners, including 600 women prisoners, will be freed.
Global warming for many farmers and growers can bring a lot of problems. The increase in global average temperature brings droughts, destroys crops, and disrupts many livelihoods. But in Bosnia, olive grower Jure Susak says though summer periods in the region are quite dry, with a little push, water, and humidity, their olives do well due to global warming. Susak adds that autumns and winters in the region are quite warm. During these seasons, the olives are developing and vegetating. He also explains that the summer's humidity makes the olives grow well. But when there is a lack of precipitation in the area, he says that they help the vines, vegetables, and fruits to cultivate. Slavko Ramjak, another olive grower, says the olives in their area give the best results. Ramjak says that their olives produce the highest quantity of polyphenols. Polyphenols protect the olive shrub, and these substances are also beneficial to people's health.
Taiwan revealed its first combat drones to the media as the island aims to strengthen its fleet of unmanned aerial vehicles to oppose Beijing's escalating military threat. According to Chi Lipin, Director of Aeronautical Research at state-owned Zhongshan Institute, they expect that the unmanned combat aerial vehicles, or UCAV, to be a future trend. UCAV serves as a vital function of unmanned aerial vehicles, which can quickly send any enemy visuals or information back to them. Li Pin said that any country that has the confidence and the resolve will take steps in research and development to prepare itself from the UCAV.
Up next, Elon Musk defends $50 billion pay deal at Tesla. Disney's Frozen, the hit musical Broadway, to premiere in Singapore. And a newborn elephant tickles reporter in Life's TV report. Stay tuned for more stories when Agila International returns.
Dama namin ang iyong mga sakripisyo. Kita namin ang pagharap mo sa bawat pagsubok. Kaya sa kabila ng mga hamon ng buhay, nandito kami para umalalay. Kasi katulad mo, gusto rin namin ang magandang bukas para sa kanya. Hatid namin ang dekalidad na edukasyon at makabagong pasilidad sa abot kayang halaga. Kaya huwag ka nang mangamba, sasamahan ka namin tuparin ang mga pangarap niya. Maaasahan mong sulit dito ang mga pinagsikapan mo. Sa aming mga makabagong pasilidad at sistema ng edukasyon. Mailalabas natin ang aking talino at mga kakayahan niya. Kahit sa munting halaga, makakasiguro ka na makakasabay siya sa mabilis na pag-ikot ng mundo. Sa New Era, karamay mo kami sa bawat hamon. Kaagapay mo kami sa bawat hakbang. Kasama mo kami sa bawat ngiti at tagumpay.
Sa bawat sumbong may responding katapat. Hindi nagdadalawang isip na tumulong sino man ang nangangailangan. Mga problema sa komunidad na ating nerespondehan, ating balikan. Iba't ibang individual na nakilala at natulungan ng ating programa ating kakumustahin. Isang isla sa bayan ng Rizal, ating binisita at binigyan ng tulong. At responde, naghatid ng saya sa mga batang kalye na inabandona ng mga mahal nila sa buhay. Mapapanood nyo kami sa mga sumusunod na mga channels. Sabado, alas 6 hanggang alas 7 ng gabi. Ito ang Responde, Mata ng Mamamayan.
We now welcome you back to Mata ng Agila International. Tesla tycoon Elon Musk defends his $50 billion pay package as CEO of the electric vehicle giant. Musk argues that the pioneering company was on the verge of collapse when the deal was agreed upon. Musk is being sued along with Tesla and some board members by shareholder Richard Torneta. Torneta accuses them of improperly signing off on what he describes as the largest compensation package ever awarded to an executive. Musk says that in 2018, when the pay deal was approved, investors thought that Tesla would fail and go bankrupt. Musk adds that the company was in a tough position at the time. Torneta alleges that Musk dictated his terms to the directors. He asks for the annulment of the pay program that helped make Musk the richest man in the world. Defending his vision for the company, Musk counters that Tesla has been or had been the laughingstock of the auto industry, and it was only the massive success of the company's Model 3 that proved electric cars were the future. A testimony from Ira Erenpris, head of the Compensation Committee on Tesla's board of directors, says that the targets set for Musk were extraordinarily ambitious and difficult. She argues that the board wanted to spur Musk to focus on Tesla at a time when the company was fighting to gain traction.
Staying on Elon Musk, who was reported as telling Twitter employees that they must support his extremely hardcore vision for Twitter by working long hours at high intensity. He threatened to fire any staff who do not support his vision. Workers have been told that they have until 5 p.m. on Thursday to click on a link confirming their desire to be part of the new Twitter, and that failure to do so in time will be interpreted as a resignation. The new Twitter CEO has been working all night to save the company from what appears to be a crisis. Musk added that the new, more efficient staff will be engineer-oriented, guaranteeing that those writing great code will constitute the majority of the team and have the greatest sway.
Diego Maradona's iconic World Cup ball has been sold at an auction for nearly 2.3 million euros. From UK, here's Ryan Florentino for the details.
The ball that Diego Maradona handled to score his infamous Hand of God goal for Argentina against England in the 1986 World Cup sold at auction for just over £2 million or $2.4 million. The white Adidas Azteca ball, which was owned by the Tunisian match referee Ali bin Nasser, had been tipped to fetch up to £3 million when it went under the hammer at UK-based Graham Budd Auctions. It comes 6 months after the jersey Maradona wore in the historic quarter-final in Mexico City, sold at auction for nearly $9.3 million, more than twice the value predicted by Sotheby's. The auction ball, inspired by the architecture and murals of the Aztec civilization, was used for the full 90 minutes of the 1986 game between Argentina and England. The clash saw a heated build-up because of political tensions following the Falklands War in 1982 and came to be defined by two contrasting goals scored by the late Maradona, who died age 60 of heart failure in November 2020. For the first, Maradona ran into the box, rose with England goalkeeper Peter Shilton, and punched the ball into the net. He later said the goal had been scored a little with the head of Maradona and a little with the hand of God. Reporting from London, United Kingdom, I am Brian Florentino for Matana Agila International, trusted, connected, on point.
Danish TV2's live broadcast of the FIFA World Cup, which begins in Qatar on Sunday, was inadvertently cut off by Qatari officials, the organizers admitted in a statement. On Tuesday night, a reporter named Rasmus Tantold was reporting to a TV anchor live when three men in a cart drove up behind him and attempted to obstruct the camera. In the video, Tantold can be heard asking security personnel in English why his crew could not record. He insisted that it was a public area.
You invited the whole world to come here. Why can't we film? It's a public place.
Received an apology from the Qatar Supreme Committee and the International Media Office following the incident. At the time of the incident, tournament organizers had refuted claims that there were limitations on where the media could film in Qatar.
Fans of Disney and Broadway musical productions in Southeast Asia are in for a treat. Frozen the musical, produced by Disney Theatrical Productions and presented by Base Entertainment Asia, will open in Singapore at the Sands Theatre, Marina Bay Sands, in February 2023. From the producers of Aladdin, The Lion King, and Mary Poppins, the musical hit adapted from the 2013 Oscar-winning film stars Australian cast members Gemma Ricks as Elsa and Matt Lee as Olaf. Featuring songs that kids love, such as Let It Go, with additional numbers and an expanded score, resident director Benjamin Osborne promises that both adults and kids will love the show. Singapore is the musical's only Southeast Asian stop, so it will be the closest that fans from the Philippines and other Southeast Asian countries can get to see the magical production. So plan that trip to Singapore now. Tickets are available. Journalist Alvin Kaunda was surrounded by newborn elephants while filming a segment for Kenya's KBC, and one of them was determined to join in the fun. In the midst of Kaunda's statement, the small animal walked up behind him and placed its trunk on his shoulder and face.
This charitable foundation is what they call home. It is the place where they discover and are taught life's lessons, experience love, and grapple with loss. And even for millions of other species, home hangs in the balance. Human actions are destroying habitats, decimating our entire ecosystem and disrupting the circle of life. And with the rise in drought cases, it is up to us to be guardians of our own natural world, save our wild species, and provide a home.
So cute. Well, a museum in Turkey honors the sacrifice of 251 Turks who laid down their lives to protect the country from a coup. Visitors coming to the July 15 Memory Museum are greeted by 251 cypress trees, each one planted in honor of the victim of the failed seizure. Rowena Castro takes us inside the building.
Memory 15 July Museum.
Located in Üsküdar, Istanbul. Built in Istanbul's Asian side, near the Martyrs Bridge, preserves the sacrifice of 251 Turks who stopped a coup, which is now remembered as Democracy and National Unity Day. The 251 Turks were in their homes, lying on their couches in front of their televisions when the news flashed on the TV screens. Soldiers had taken over key bridges and buildings, tanks rolling down the roads, and jets flying low over Istanbul. That night of July 15, 2016, tens of thousands of Turks came out to face off a renegade band of soldiers to preserve democracy. The museum's staircase is decorated with the shoes and slippers of the 251 civilians who were killed that night. Outside are 251 cypress trees planted in honor of the victims of the failed coup. Upon entering the second floor of the museum, the slogan, "What you will see is your own story," catches the viewer's attention. The museum was designed by Turkish arch Muharrem Hilmi Senalt. It was inaugurated by President Recep Tayyip Erdogan in December 2019. Tariq Sebik, head of July 15 Association, also said more than 500,000 visitors visited the museum in its first anniversary despite the coronavirus pandemic. On 2021, more than 15,000 visitors from other countries attended the anniversary of July 15, 2016 museum. This year, up to 54,000 people attended the anniversary.
From Turkey, I am Mel Marijoy Covet for Mata ng Agila International. Trusted, connected on point.
Well, it's almost the weekend, and to help you go through this week, here's a quote from Alexander Graham Bell, a Scottish-born inventor, scientist, and engineer. Concentrate all your thoughts upon the work in hand. The sun's rays do not burn until brought to a focus.
For you to make a mark, you have to really focus on just one and make a difference doing that.
Yeah,
right?
that is so true. There are so many things that we can do. You know, I'm reminded of when I was a little girl, I would use me and my siblings, we would use a magnifying glass to burn something like a leaf or something. And it really takes a lot of focus to be able to catch the sun's rays and have that burn through the dried leaf. So it really takes a lot of focus to get something done.
So you have to focus on maybe one skill, one talent, and then shine with that.
Or be the jack of all trades and the master of none.
And that is a wrap for tonight's news. Catch the latest updates on our social media channels. I'm CJ Hero.
And I am Nina Richie Alago Flores. This is Mata ng Agila International. Trusted, connected, on point.